When we think about history, we're usually picturing these grand battles or massive cultural shifts, right? But today, we are zooming way in on the micro level. We're going to explore three intense, completely true historical events that show the absolute mind-boggling extremes humans will go to just to survive. It's a pretty heavy question, honestly. What actually happens when giving up literally means certain death? By digging into these deeply visceral stories, we're going to tap into that raw, ingrained biological switch, that wild mechanism that flips in our brains when the only options left on the table are to fight or die. So let's look at our first story, 1809, Hunted in the Wilderness. Our story starts with a frontiersman named John Coulter. He's out hunting beaver pelts in the American West with his partner John Potts, when out of nowhere, bam, they're ambushed by hundreds of Blackfeet warriors. The warriors strip Coulter completely naked. His partner totally panics, refuses to get out of their canoe, fires his rifle, and, well, he's instantly killed, literally turned into a human pincushion by arrows. Now, Coulter assumes he's definitely next. But instead, the chief points out toward the open prairie and just gives him a brief head start. This wasn't a standard execution. It was a hunt. And Coulter was the prey. I want you to really picture this agonizing journey. He's completely naked, he has zero supplies, and he is quite literally running for his life. He sprints so hard that his nose just pours blood from this strain, and his bare feet are being totally shredded by the rocks and shrubs. I mean, he's pushing his body to a physical limit most of us can't even begin to comprehend, desperately making a break for the Madison River miles away. In his absolute darkest hour, with his vision literally blurring from exhaustion, Coulter whips around to face his closest pursuer. The startled warrior trips, snaps his spear, and Coulter instantly turns it right back on him. He snatches the dead man's blanket, sprints to the river, and actually dives into a freezing beaver lodge. He finds this tiny little pocket of air to hide in while the warriors are searching literally right above his head. From there, he survives a grueling 11-day, 300-mile trek to a trading fort, surviving on absolutely nothing but roots and berries. Against all possible odds, the guy made it. Okay, moving on to story number 2. 1961, Surgery in the Antarctic. Context is absolutely everything for this one. Meet 26-year-old surgeon Leonid Rogozov. He's the only doctor stationed at a super remote Soviet research base down in Antarctica with 12 other guys. On April 29th, he develops severe appendicitis. Now, normally, this is a totally routine procedure, right? But here, a massive blizzard meant rescue planes had zero chance of landing, and the next closest doctor is over 1,000 miles away. If that appendix bursts, he dies, period. So he had to do the unthinkable. He had to save his own life by operating on himself. So at 2 a.m. on May 1st, he gets into this half-sitting position and just initiates this desperate self-surgery. His colleagues are standing by, holding a mirror and a shot of adrenaline just in case he passes out. He shoots himself up with local anesthetic and cuts a 4-inch slice into his own abdomen. But here's the crazy part. Because the mirror inverted his view, he mostly had to just navigate by touch. He's working blind, feeling the warmth of his own blood on his bare hands. He even accidentally nicked his large intestine and had to stop to sew it back together. Just imagine the absolute mental fortitude that takes. 30. That is the number of seconds he had to stop and rest every 4 minutes just to fight off the extreme nausea, the vertigo, and the fact that he was right on the brink of blacking out entirely. His vision was going blurry, his heart rate was plummeting, he's actively battling his own body shutting down, all while his hands are deep inside his own abdomen searching for this infected organ. Exhausted but incredibly successful, Rogozov finally found it. And get this, he noticed a dark stain at the base of the appendix, which meant it was basically less than a day away from bursting. He removed it, sewed himself back up, and just collapsed. After battling a high fever, he somehow fully recovered his strength in just 2 weeks and went right back to work. The Soviet government even awarded him the Order of the Red Banner of Labor for his bravery. Talk about methodical, unbreakable survival. All right, on to our third and final story, 1971, The Girl Who Fell. It's Christmas Eve. 17-year-old Juliana Kopka is flying home to her zoologist parents over the Amazon on Lanza Flight 508. Just 30 minutes into the trip, the plane flies straight into a violent thunderstorm. The cabin starts shaking violently, luggage is flying everywhere, and suddenly, outside the window, the right wing just catches fire. Over the deafening roar of those failing engines, her mother incredibly calmly delivers these chilling final words. That is the end. It's all over. Literally seconds later, the aircraft tears itself apart in midair. Still strapped to her bench seat, Julianne plummets 2 miles straight down into the Amazon. 2 miles! Miraculously, the dense rainforest canopy and that row of seats break her fall just enough to save her life. But when she wakes up the next morning, she is completely alone. She's got a broken collarbone, deep gashes, a totally wrecked knee, a severe concussion, and she lost her glasses, which left her severely nearsighted in basically one of the most dangerous, predator-filled environments on the planet. But Julianne actually had a secret advantage. She had lived with her parents down in the Amazon for a year and a half. She knew the absolute golden rule of jungle survival: find a stream and follow it to a river, because rivers eventually lead to people. Relying on those hard-learned skills, she followed a stream for 10 grueling days. She survived on a single bag of candy she scrounged from the wreckage. She shivered through these freezing tropical nights. And, horrifyingly, at one point, she actually stumbled upon 3 dead passengers still strapped to their seats, pitched headfirst into the ground. It was an absolute psychological and physical gauntlet. In her absolute darkest moment, totally exhausted and starving, she finally found a small boat and a little hut sitting by a riverbank. But there was a major problem. Her arm wound was deeply infected, and botfly maggots were literally eating her flesh. Remembering a trick her father used on the family dog, she endured the unbelievable agony of sucking gasoline right out of a fuel can and spitting it directly into her open wound. The harsh fuel forced the maggots to the surface, and she managed to pluck 30 of them right out of her own arm. She fell asleep in that hut, and the very next morning, she was found by local lumberjacks and finally rescued. The sobering reality of this crash is just incredibly hard to fathom. Out of the 92 people on board that flight, Julianne was the sole survivor. Tragically, she later found out that her mother actually survived the initial fall too, but was just too injured to move and passed away a few days later in the jungle. Julianne's survival wasn't just some miracle. It was this really profound mix of sheer luck, incredible resilience, and utterly vital survival knowledge. Which brings us to our final takeaway: the will to live. These 3 incredible historical stories, they remind us that the human spirit and our innate resilience are, quite frankly, unbelievably powerful biological tools. When civilization strips away, when all our tools fail, when every single odd is stacked against us, there is this fundamental engine inside us that simply refuses to quit. So as you think about the burning lungs of John Coulter running naked through the brush, the wildly steady hands of Leonid Rogozov operating on himself in the freezing Antarctic, and the truly unbreakable will of young Julianne Koepke falling out of the sky, I want you to ask yourself, if you were stripped of absolutely everything and staring into the abyss, how might your own latent survival instincts awaken in your darkest hour? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.